looking up for the cash-strapped vet Heike when she discovers a private zoo.
I didn't expect to deal with any exotic animals on Scilly, you know. Yeah, there are loads, absolutely loads.
On the Isles of Scilly, there's a sense of things moving on after the bad start to the summer. The weather, so vital to the all-important holiday trade, is looking much more reliable, and the number of day trippers on the ferry from the mainland, the Scilonian, is on the up again. Today, the Scilonian is carrying a rather unusual cargo, although you'd never know it just by looking at the white van which is holding it. Accompanying the cargo is Kerry Jones, who's sold up his home and his business in South Wales to begin a new life on the islands. The van's being treated very delicately by the steamship company. Its contents could, in its own modest way, revolutionise the island way of life. Kerry is the man behind Radio Scilly, the world's smallest radio station, which is being assembled in the tiny new studio above the island's estate agents on St. Mary's.
It's quite a big day. It's been a very long day. It started at around 4:45 this morning, and we've driven a van in containing an entire radio station, everything we need to go on air, the computer system, the transmission system, furniture for the office.
How long have you got to put it all together?
It's kind of against the clock now. We've got until when the boat sails back to the mainland on Wednesday afternoon. Dave has to return the van, our engineer Dave Moss has to return the van by 3:15 down the quay on Wednesday. So he has to be in that van to take it back to the mainland. So I'm just dreading a couple of days with no sleep, I think.
The key task now is to get the message about the imminent opening of the new station across to the islanders. Each year there's a big summer festival up at the Garrison on St. Mary's. This is the perfect opportunity to pull out all the stops on the PR front.
Test broadcast from Radio Scilly.
Today, Kerry's sidekick, Zoe Parry, is busy setting up the station's stall for the first time.
Today's our first big public event, so we're having a presence and hopefully going to do lots of promotion for the radio station. Also, we've finalised our schedule as well, so we're going to be handing that out. And just going out about meeting people, talking to them, finding out what they love about Scilly so we can make up some more sweepers.
So this really is a sort of public debut, isn't it?
It is a public debut, yes. I'm very much looking forward to it. But yeah, it's key for us to be here today because it's one of the biggest events in Scilly's calendar. To record.
Many of the programmes and news bulletins will be presented by the islanders themselves. Zoe has a big job ahead to get everyone trained up in time for the opening.
Yeah, and you can see it on the, as I talk, you can see it moving on the top.
Already the new transmitter's being fitted to the telegraph mast on the highest point of St. Mary's. Everything must be ready in just a few days' time. At the other end of St. Mary's, these are busy days too for retired teacher Mark Prager, who gave up his job at the island's school a few years ago to pursue his lifelong ambition to open his own brewery. Mark's made the brewery in a barn at the back of the farmhouse he rents from Prince Charles and the Duchy of Cornwall. It's been a big success. And not surprisingly, it was one of the first places real ale lover Father Guy visited when he first arrived on Scilly.
How amazing. Never a wrong time to drink a real ale. Cheers.
Cheers. Good health.
Yes, thanks.
Now Mark has decided it's time to move on.
The brewery has kind of outgrown it, and also this barn is not mine, it's a Duchy barn, so I'm moving the business into a building that will belong to me, so that one day if I'm ever allowed to retire, Molly's told me I've got to die in harness, so it's not likely, but if I ever did, I'd actually have a business to sell, which would be good.
Mark is moving the brewery lock, stock and barrel down to a new site much nearer the harbour. And for Mark, it's an enormous financial gamble.
It is a huge investment.
Because you borrowed.
I've borrowed a lot of money, but I think it's worth it because the building and well, the business will belong to me. Well, the bank mostly, but also to me.
But everything relies on you continuing to sell the beer, doesn't it?
Yeah, and me keeping reasonably fit as well. This is where I suddenly remember how heavy it is.
Physically moving the brewery and its collection of stainless steel casks and tubs is quite a challenge for Mark and his long-suffering wife, Molly.
I think you did most of that. Why is this harder than the bigger one?
Where are we going?
Well, you told me to keep going the same way. I need a drink now.
Mark's also had to hire the largest crane on Scilly to get the huge casks out by the only route possible, over the roof.
It's terrifying. Right now, if that's... that fell. It would be very dramatic. And quite expensive as well.
It's mid-August, and with Bishop Bill's encouragement, the new chaplain, Father Guy, is throwing himself into the job with a renewed sense of vigour. It's the summer fete season, and at the St. Martin's fete, Guy wastes no time in getting stuck into the tricky task of judging the cake-making competition. And later, the island's famous sandcastle competition. Once again, Guy's reminded that Scilly is a place where you have to make your own entertainment.
Does he live in any of those castles, or...?
The middle one.
The middle one.
I wouldn't dare touch it.
Fantastic, well done.
Right, we'll go and move on. See how the next one gets on.
Over on Briar, they're even more inventive. There's a rather Heath Robinson-looking hunk-a-dunk where you pay to soak the island boatmen. There are lots of other, very original attractions.
Cake eating competition. The cake eating competition is about...
There are no shops on Briar, so the second-hand clothes stall is always a winner, as is the legendary Briar homemade fudge. Radio Scilly has established a new network of correspondents to cover the off-islands. On Briar, a keen young aspiring journalist, Charlie Bennett, has been recruited to gather local news around her home island.
There we go, that is...
Yes.
She's been getting training on using the recording equipment from Zoe.
Fantastic. Switch is on the side there.
Right.
So this is 107.9 Radio Scilly. You can hear that?
That's really clear.
Yeah, it's very, very good, isn't it?
Isn't
Very
it?
good. Again, when you're holding it, keep it sort of a distance away and watch out for the levels on the top as well.
Okay.
So they'll flash up.
Zoe, what exactly is Charlie going to be doing for the station?
Charlie's going to look after the Briar show for us. Every day we're going to do a different island, and Charlie's going to take care of Briar. So all the latest developments, news, information, and good work that's going on Briar, and go out and talk to people and bring it all together for us.
So all the programmes will be done by local people?
Yes.
Everyone? You're
Yes.
not importing talent from the mainland?
No, we don't need to, because we've got such a vast pool of talent right here. I mean, the response has been overwhelming. People that are doing little bits and pieces, things like Walk of the Week, Bird of the Week, Flower of the Week. There's lots of things going on there.
The boss of the station, though, Kerry Jones, is nowhere to be seen. This is Milan, the ancient cultural and commercial centre of northern Italy. A place where everyone, it seems, is passionate about football, about fashion, and about food. Strange as it may sound, it's to Milan that Kerry from Radio Scilly has come, on a very important mission.
Why on earth are you in Milan?
I've come to get jingles done for the radio station.
But why Milan?
Why Milan? Well, it's the cheapest place I can find that you can get jingles made in that also have the right kind of sound and image that I want for Radio Scilly.
What, cheaper than the UK?
Much cheaper than the UK, yeah, considerably cheaper.
Why is it cheaper?
I don't know, but we're talking a fraction of the price. I spent a whole day on the internet trying to find companies that could do jingles for us, from companies in Dallas to ones in Holland, and by far the best deal we could get, and obviously money is really tight at Radio Scilly, was here in Milan.
Kerry's keen to hear one particular voice, Susanna, a part-time nightclub singer.
She does occasional freelance work as a session singer with one of these jingle companies, and I think the best way to see whether she has the qualities that we need for Radio Scilly's jingles is actually to hear her perform in front of an audience in quite an intimate venue.
Kerry's obviously liked what he's heard. Susanna is booked into the recording session for tomorrow. A few hundred miles away, back on Scilly. And for Heike, the island's new vet, things are looking up after a disastrous start. Heike knew work in such a small community would fluctuate, but it's been much quieter than she'd ever imagined. But now, thanks to the butcher on St. Mary's, Steve Griffin, there's been a development which may help change everything.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hidden away behind trees on the eastern edge of St. Mary's, and unbeknown to even some islanders, Griff the butcher has his own private menagerie, and it's huge. Here Griff and his partner Stella look after more than 300 animals.
Nice, Hazel.
What are these animals, Heike?
They're called alpacas.
No doubt many of them will, in time, be requiring the attention of a qualified veterinary surgeon. Despite his job as a butcher, Griff has a passion for collecting weird and wonderful animals.
What are they? The little
quail.
one? Quail. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to deal with any exotic animals on Scilly, you know. Okay, sheep, you know, goat. And here, can you come please? I have a problem with a wallaby.
But this place could keep you busy almost on its own. These animals, yeah?
Yeah, there are loads. Absolutely loads. Hoppala.
Griff has asked Heike to come and look at one of his baby emus, which has a problem with its leg.
Yes, you see?
Yeah.
His foot is turned outwards.
Look, yeah.
Come on, baby, come on. All right, baby.
It's okay.
All right.
The leg is showing in a totally different direction, which it shouldn't. So it looks a bit like it's maybe dislocated or something like that. I think I have to have it in the surgery and then try to get that leg back in.
Right.
Hopefully it works. Well, I try my best.
The discovery of so many animals on her doorstep might just be the thing to help Heike get out of her present financial difficulties.
Oh my God.
Over on Briar, eager beaver young newshound Charlie Bennett is discovering that finding news on the little island is no easy task.
It's brilliant, it's really good opportunity and experience, although there doesn't seem to be that much news at the moment, which is a slight problem. So I'm sort of scraping for stories at the moment.
After much research, though, Charlie has at last uncovered what seems to be her first big scoop. Her auntie Chris, who makes the famous island homemade fudge, appears to have been the victim of something unheard of here. A crime.
And you work on an honesty box basis.
Yes.
Is that successful? Does it work, or have there ever been mishaps, if you like?
Yes, this year I actually thought we'd had a major theft, and it was the day of the fete. We'd all been busy on the field. Fudge store was filled up with the box, and came back in the evening, and the honesty box had gone. And there was no fudge there, so I was distraught and terribly angry, and I was stomping round saying...
Well, this is quite a drama then about the stolen money.
Yeah, well, it was, you know. There were phone calls to the police, I think, posters ready to go up to shame the villain.
Really?
Yeah, they
So
were really going to,
Chris
you know...
really thought it had been stolen?
Yeah, she really thought it had.
I'll do this again every year.
It turns out the explanation is far less sinister than they'd thought. Well, this is silly after all.
And to my delight, when I went in the house, somebody had obviously very kindly bought the last bag of fudge and removed the box into the house for safekeeping. So I think that's a lovely thing about Scilly.
Isn't that a bit of a non-story, though?
It is a bit of a non-story, but, you know, I think it just shows how great Scilly is, and, you know, and I think people like to hear that kind of thing.
So it's
the only story I've got, so at the moment, you know, it's important. I'm going with it. You know, I'm running the show on this story.
Back in Milan, Kerry's preparing to record the all-important new radio station jingles. In a tiny recording studio in the northern suburbs of the city, he's working with engineers Loris Meroni and his son Michel.
I don't think there's any, you know, difficult local place names. I've tried to keep them out, so...
Their ideas for the music are going down well.
That's nice. Good. So we'll have about 2 minutes of the track going round, and we can have the weatherman. He'll talk over that point. So when we have that on it, that'll be great. We've got the musical logo, and then the track goes on for about 2 minutes, goes round in a loop, yeah?
Ah, cioè dici che se posso farlo andare avanti, no?
Yeah, it goes round in a loop.
The big problem is that the singer, Susanna, doesn't speak with an English accent, let alone a Cornish one.
Hello, pleased to meet you. From Radio Scilly, you're going to be a huge star on the Isles of Scilly, because people are going to hear you every hour, every day. I'm here to make sure that words like Briar and St. Martin's and Tresco are sung perfectly as if they were being sung on Scilly rather than in Milan.
So will she not have an Italian accent then, this singer?
Not by the time I finished with her.
She's an Italian?
She's an Italian, yes.
Kerry may have underestimated the size of the task.
How can I say silly?
Silly.
Silly.
Silly, that's it?
Silly.
Silly.
Okay.
Silly.
Ah, avevo un dubbio. I had a doubt about
That's
it.
good. Silly.
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 The spirits of the islands.
One of-
Island.
Islands.
Islands.
You had it
Non si
right.
dice con la S. Islands.
Yeah.
10.
107.9.
Oh, what dicono?
yeah.
107. Oh my God. It's different between American and...
Yes, it is. Very different.
Radio Scilly is based on the little industrial estate behind Porthmelon Beach on St Mary's. Next door is Churchwarden Fiona's Wholesalers, and beside that is Oriel Hicks's stained glass workshop. Now there's a new boy on the block. This is Mark Prager's spanking new brewery. All the heavy casks, fermenters and fridges have been safely transported down from the farmhouse and are in place. Brewing is now successfully underway. As well as being much nearer his customers, the brewery is now also just around the corner from the chaplaincy, making goodwill visits by Father Guy virtually obligatory.
It's not nearly as pretty as the old building, but it's very functional. This is the cold store where there are actually casks of beer ready to go out in there. There's all sorts of other stuff that I keep cool in there.
Right.
Now, I've got some bottles of beer that I may need your help with in a minute.
Oh.
This is the sort of the engine room of the brewery.
Mark's even brewing a special new beer.
All full of beer at the moment. And these two have actually got the new beer that I'm doing for the launch of Radio Scilly.
Are you making a new one?
Brand new beer, completely different hop.
Oh, really?
I'm using, and quite excited by it because I've made the same beers for several years running, and I get a bit fed up making the same thing. So I always like to make a new
new
one.
for you.
Completely new.
Oh.
You could have a little taster. It's not going to be clear or anything, but
I'm game.
I could dip the tank, and we can have a little taster just to see what
certainly.
it's like.
Yeah, lovely.
Looks a bit like a medical sample. It's
Oh, yes, it is light though, isn't it?
yeah, it's very pale. Cheers.
Cheers.
We go for it. Probably it's going to taste horrible. Wow, it's not bad at all.
Quite fruity, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's going to be quite nice, that. Very drinkable. I think they're going to be falling over all over the island.
Guy can see the potential of the new station.
It will encourage the community, I think, in communicating to each other. And like I say, it's all good fun, really. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And is the beer doing its launch justice, do you think? Is it?
I'm sure it will, yes. It's a beautiful beer.
Can't wait to taste it.
Very nice.
Well, here's to Radio Scilly then.
Radio
Scilly.
At the recording studios in Milan, Kerry and his new Italian jingle singer Susanna are struggling.
107.9 is point. It's just a very, that's...
107.9.
That's fine. Point.
The spirits of the island. 107.9.
Facciamo prima The Spirits of the Island.
No.
Anche?
It's islands. Yeah, it's quite hard to sing, I know. And it's spirits, just the one, not...
Spirit.
That's it, spot on, that's it.
In Italian I say S. It's not S.
After much sweat and toil in the stifling studio, everything finally clicks into place.
Questa è bella.
Bellissima.
So you're pleased, are you?
Yes, it's very good. I'm very happy. Very hot. Very happy.
Adesso dobbiamo trovare...
It's cool.
107.9.
Bisogna trovare...
107.9, yeah. 107.9.
107.9. The spirits of the islands. 107.9. Radio Scilly.
Back at her surgery on Scilly, it looks as though Heike is going to have to make some tough decisions. This is the largely unseen downside to the job.
Well, I want to determine whether it's actually a dislocated hock or a deformity. This normally goes plock.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Doing.
The joint is really loose.
Well,
What's your feeling about it, Heike?
not so good.
It's okay.
I think it's no use. Do you know why? There are normally ligaments in that side that hold it, this bit, hold it there tight.
There's nothing holding it.
And there's nothing anymore, and that's why it can actually move over. If it was a four-legged animal, you could still walk around on three legs, not a problem. But if you have only two legs, and you're getting very big and heavy, you can't hop about on one leg. So I'd would like to put it down.
But I think, Heike, it's my time to move. Because I don't...
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll put that
It
back.
won't hurt him. It's
I know
just.
it will not, yeah.
Okay.
I'll come back here.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's a painful task. This is not the kind of extra business Heike was really hoping for.
It's okay. I'll just have to wait a little bit. She will just sleep. Fall asleep. A bit sad. Oh.
It's the evening before the Radio Scilly launch, and Kerry, now back from Milan, and his team are burning the midnight oil to get the station ready in time.
Okay.
The only worry I had when I was putting this in here is the cable from the disc brake under there. It's actually quite short.
At the crack of dawn, after a quick wash and brush up, everyone's back. And the final countdown begins. For Kerry, months of hard work and his entire reputation are now on the line.
I've been compiling list after list after list of things that we need to do. I've had very little sleep, but we'll get through it somehow.
Do you have nightmares that launch could all go horrendously wrong?
All the time.
Do you?
Yeah. I had one of those nights last night where I woke up at 2:10, 3:10, 4:10. At 5:10, I thought, I'm just going to go into work. But there are all those weird dreams, you know, where you've got to get to the radio station, but you can't get your shoes and socks on, and you've got to do a programme. There's weird things everybody has with their jobs. It's a big job making a really high-quality professional radio station in what is essentially a village of 2,000 people scattered on 5 islands.
So Kerry's done everything he can. All he can do now is pray his new team of star presenters, the islanders themselves, can step into the limelight and prove they're up to the task.
Hopefully Sally won't say much.
No, I hope she does. We've got a bit of a star here.
She'll keep quiet.
In the next programme, there's the official opening for one of the biggest developments in island life for a generation.
The key's vital to an island way of life, isn't it?
Totally. It is the key to our future.
Having never had a resident lawyer on Scilly, an eager young solicitor from the mainland hopes she'll prove to be a big hit.
Best thing that's happened is they'll think I'm like the Ally McBeal of the Isles of Scilly and everybody will want me.
And Father Guy starts to appreciate the resourcefulness needed to keep going in the remoter corners of his parish.
I think that's the way to survive out on these islands. You either adapt or you go down.
It's the height of the summer season on the Isles of Scilly, and excitement is building for the imminent launch of the island's new radio station. It's been a frantic few weeks for station boss Kerry Jones, preparing the studio and training up the presenters.
My name's Charlie Bennett, and I'll be doing a roundup of all the news from Briar for Radio Scilly. I should have done 107.9 Radio Scilly. Should I just start again?
Kerry's even been all the way to Milan to record the jingles for the new station. A harder task than he'd imagined.
Silly.
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 And Mark the brewer is making a brand new beer for the launch, much to the approval of the island's chaplain.
Looks a bit like a medical sample. Radio Scilly. Cheers.
Cheers.